Welcome back to season 2 of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I am your host, Marcia Blaine, a licensed professional counselor, a clinical hypnotherapist, an author, motivator, and life coach. Join us during this season as we begin to normalize freedom. Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I'm so excited for my guest today. We went through our graduate program together, our PhD program together. We've written books. We've taught classes. We teach students. My girl, Dr. Jeannelle Muhammed, is here with us today, and I am super excited to be able to interview you, especially on your new project, Intimacy. But we're going to break that down to the actual title. But let me jump into the actual bio and give y'all the real professional side of things. Dr. Jeannelle Perkins Muhammed is a psychotherapist and a licensed family therapist with more than 20 years of experience in relationship and life coaching. She is a graduate of University of Maryland and Capella University. She is currently an adjunct professor at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina, and is a culturally competent therapist, helping to establish a new generation of clinical counselors. Dr. Jeannelle is a foundation fellow of Roper St. Francis Hospital. She is a consultant on TV One's hit show, Fatal Attraction. Dr. Jeannelle has been featured in Skirt Magazine, Newsweek, Charleston Magazine, and Vice Magazine. She has been seen on the Afro News, Chicken Box, Divorce.com, Fox 24 Charleston, Low Country Live, Reese G, and her Point of View podcast. Dr. Jeannelle has her pulse on the mental health and emotional health of our community. She's licensed in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina. In her private practice, group practice, they assist individuals, families, and couples to rehabilitate, repair, and revitalize their commitment to authentic living. Y'all know how I feel about authentic living, right? As a characteristic for building healthy relationships and vibrant communities. Her spiritual experience and evidence-based therapeutic approach is her hallmark for helping you change the trajectory of your life. Her recent book, Intimacy, INTO-ME-SEE. Y'all see that play on words? Intimacy? Intimacy explores the cultural and personal factors that can make it challenging for Black couples to develop and maintain intimacy, which offering solutions that strengthen their unity. She is a capacity expander who believes the greatest generational wealth that we can be bestowed is mental and emotional wellness. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
It's such a beautiful sight to see you. We greeted each other, y'all, like we were little kids in high school, like we hadn't seen each other for a while. Thank you for being here.
It. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
I know. I'm excited for us to get this opportunity. We've seen a lot of changes in our life. We've gone through a lot together in the process of life. So we're just going to dive in and talk about intimacy in the Black community, really understanding how to enhance intimacy with yourself as well as in relationship with others.
Absolutely.
Let's get it. Anything you want to say to the audience before we jump in?
Oh, I think you just should be open-minded.
Oh, yes. Be open-minded. Yeah, just come on, y'all. Don't be boxed in. Y'all know how we talk about that peculiar one. We don't fit in anybody's boxes.
That's right.
That's not what we do. We're outside, we're expansive, we're broad, and we're moving. So with all the success you have with helping people with relationships, what is it like to not have been able to save your 23-year marriage?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, it was challenging because for me, my marriage was everything. I grew up in a family that was very much spiritually connected, and to be wife was your goal, your purpose, your design.
No other definition.
No other. And to be wife was help meet, right? And so there are only two things in the Bible called help: the Holy Spirit and a wife.
You better speak on it.
What I had to learn, though, was that the Holy Spirit does not control us or make us do anything, only influences and guides.
Yes.
But we have decisions to make.
Yes.
And what I found that I was doing as trying to be help was to control and manage things in such a way that it moved in a direction that seemed right for the relationship. What I realized that the other person I was connected to did not want the same things that I wanted.
You know, and it's so powerful because oftentimes I tell clients every 10 years you need to reassess your marriage and relationship because as decades go, we grow or go.
Right.
You either grow with the person or you're going in a different direction and you need to be honest with yourself. When you talk about that 23-year marriage and that help, do you feel like you may have lost your own identity in that?
Oh, for sure. For sure. There were many times where I was busy trying to make sure that his life went according to plan. And not just plan in terms of mine, but what we decided we were doing. And he did not want to do things well. Let's put it that way. Right. It was very emotionally and verbally abusive. So I had to take a step back and really ask myself, what was it that I wanted out of life? What did I want to think and feel in a relationship with someone? And that wasn't it.
To the audience, there are a lot of people who lose their identity when you become coupled. I would encourage you to remember that you're an individual first and then a couple. Because when you lose that identity, and I'm twice divorced, my second divorce, I remember standing in the middle of the floor and saying, God, I don't know who I am. Because the church had told me that I turned my back on my ex-husband, who was a pastor, because we weren't moving, we weren't growing in the same direction, right? But I had to make some decisions because my mental wellness was at stake. You've said the phrase multiple times, when you know, let it go.
Oh my goodness.
Let's talk about that.
Because what happens is, so there are a number of things that happen in the word. So first of all, the word clearly says that hope deferred makes the heart sick.
You better speak on it.
And so when you have a hope and an expectation for a relationship to go in a particular way, healthy and whole, what happens is the moment that you begin to realize that it's not happening, the first time, there's some disappointment. The second time, there's some anger. Before you know it, you're in resentment, and the heart becomes sick.
Like the grief cycle.
Wow. The heart pains.
And then when the heart becomes sick, then here comes the physical sicknesses, that depression and anxiety.
Your hair falling out.
Your hair can we talk about that reality for a moment?
It's very real because it happened to me.
And one of the things that, as our friendship grew over the years, I loved your locks. So we've actually switched roles.
Yes, we have.
Because your locks were down to your butt.
Everybody used to tell me that my locks were half my height.
And
I'm not that tall, but...
But you got a big statue, baby. You got
do what I can. Do what I can.
Right?
No, but you're right. So they literally began to fall out at the root. So the first time I realized, I was literally in the shower and I jumped because I thought a snake had crawled up through the drain. And it was a 3-foot lock that fell from the top of my head.
My Lord.
So over the course of years, my hair fell out. My skin developed this horrible looking rash. It was bad. And then I got high blood pressure. I work out every day.
Eat well.
Eat very well. I am always looking for self-care, things that I need to do to take care of myself. And it wasn't working because the individual that I was connected to was
heavy.
More than heavy. He was literally speaking words to me that said, I don't want you to grow. On the surface, out in public, I'm going to show everyone that I do. But when I pull back in the home, it's going to be different. So what you got an opportunity to see was beautiful. And I got tired of living a picture that was more pixelated behind the scenes.
And you know, so many people have been living the picture and they're miserable and they're hurting, but they don't feel safe in the let go. When did you become safe enough in you to say, it's time to go?
One of my favorite scriptures is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And then if you read further, it says, surely, right? Goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. When I realized that I was truly wanting and paining for that want, and that I understand that my God wants me to have goodness and mercy.
Come on now.
And I went to my individual and I said, listen, here's what I want to be able to do. Let's renegotiate this thing. Let's set the expectations differently. I recognize it's been a long time, but let's see what we can do. And they looked at me and said, no, I like the way things are going. I want to keep this the way it is. I said, surely goodness and mercy will follow me. It can only follow me if I go and create.
Listen, and to piggyback off of that, my grace is sufficient. When we recognize that being able to let go, that empowerment of letting go, fear does come up, right? Because it's an unknown territory that you're walking into. But when you recognize that grace and mercy follows you
all the days.
Come on now.
Which means that even when I was in that situation, they were still following me, right?
They just had to step back a little bit.
And let me experience some things and let me grow too, because it's not, the Lord's not going to make me do anything.
Come on now.
So the word also says that we don't have a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So if God gave us power, love, and a sound mind, we have to be able to keep it, to hold on to it. He already gave it to us.
And he's not coming back to say, here's something new. Come on, you all. You got to recognize that there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new coming. Everything that we need to make the absolute best decisions we came here equipped with.
Yes.
What I love about the gentleness of the Holy Spirit is there are nudges, but not a takeover. Because you get the right to choose. But understand this, it's okay to choose you.
That's right.
Tell me about that, choosing you.
So that's really one of the reasons that the book came to fruition finally. I started trying to write this book in 2001.
Seriously.
And when I made the decision that I was really going to choose to be who God called me to be, I stopped and said, that's it. I'm finishing this book. So in 2019, 2020, I got back on that ball. And then finally, when I made the decision I was absolutely not staying in this marriage, I went to Africa for 6 weeks.
I remember that.
I sat in Africa for 6 weeks and I wrote and I wrote what I knew to be true about relationships. Because the principles that are there, I was working.
Right.
They just weren't being received.
Right. And that's the thing. And please hear this, because I hear people erroneously state this. You can't give me advice if you're not married. And that's so not true. The real truth is the level of wisdom, and I'll go even further, the anointing on our lives doesn't dictate we have to be married in the moment, but we have the gift of understanding, the gift of healing, and the gift of guidance. So when you were sitting in Africa, all of those gifts set on you.
Oh my goodness. And the truth of the matter is I recognize that by someone else's standard, my marriage might not have been successful. But mine, it definitely was.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can tell you the accomplishments that we had externally and internally. I know what we did spiritually that really impacts an entire world now.
Yes.
I know how I grew emotionally, and I'm certain that he would say that he did not make it to the levels he did without me.
Couldn't have.
Nor could I without him.
Exactly, because it was an exchange.
Absolutely.
But here's what we do know in life: partnerships can shift.
Absolutely.
Especially when there is a movement on one and not the same movement on the other. I'm going to digress to a topic that I just did a Facebook reel on the other day, where there was an attack on Black women being the enemy to Black men. And when I kept hearing that, right, it became frustrating for me because it was like, listen, we will submit when you have a vision, a mission, and a purpose. But God gave us a sound mind, wisdom, and love, right? And so when you think about even being in your marriage and moving and saying, listen, I want us to stay on this journey, but it needs to change. We need to renegotiate. I love that.
Yeah.
And there was a no. How did that feel for you?
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. I felt betrayed.
Mm.
It was a sinking feeling in your gut, right there in the floor. I felt like I'd become a puddle in the middle of the floor.
Oh my.
It was really hard for me because when I say my marriage was
everything
to me, I just knew that if we could make some different steps, go in a different direction, that we could do so much more and really be powerful, because the picture was there.
Yeah, yeah.
The picture was there. I didn't even know that even my children had stopped coming home.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to be a part of it anymore.
My
and when
goodness.
I told them I was getting a divorce, they congratulated me for finally finding myself.
Isn't that amazing how our babies love us enough to support us, but will stand back and say, I'm so glad this is done for you. And be there for us. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful picture. But what it also is an empowering picture to your daughters to say, I don't have to settle.
Yeah. And I think that's really what Into Me See was about. It's twofold. It's taking the opportunity as a couple to look deeply into the other person, enough so that you then see the fullness of who they are, cognitively, emotionally, and spiritually. And then we'll get to the physical stuff.
Right.
Because you got those three, the physical will fall in line.
Exactly.
One way or another, whatever we got to do. And then it's also being able, as an individual, to look deeply into yourself enough to know what you need to manifest your most authentic being.
How can you expect, or how can anyone expect, for someone to know what your needs are when you don't take time to assess them? If you don't know your needs.
And if you can't assert what those needs are or advocate for yourself, it can be really difficult. And what I found was that over the years, I was doing that. I was getting so much pushback from various sources externally that I would often sit back and go, okay, maybe that's not right. Okay, maybe that, okay, wait.
Give an example of that pushback from external sources.
Okay, so this is going to be open minds, please.
Open minds.
Open minds. I'm a fairly physical person. I enjoy sex. I think it's a wonderful activity that everyone should participate if you want to. So
let me stop for a second.
Okay.
Don't be trying to judge us. Because we all enjoy sex. If you're not enjoying sex, then you might need to call one of us so we can help you get to the point of enjoyment. Okay.
But here's
Here's
the thing I say about judgment. If you need to judge me, walk 1,000 miles in my shoes.
Oof.
And if after you've done that, you still want to judge me, at least you're 1,000 miles away.
So keep your judgment, but go and listen to this breakthrough.
So what happened was I recognized that there was some challenge in our sexual connection. So I was asking that we role play. I mean, y'all can go look it up if you want to, but do you remember Chicken Ho?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an extreme level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least you have an opportunity to wear something different, do something different. Well, he didn't agree and decided one day while we were sitting having a barbecue that he would share with my parents what
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
had
have to drink some coffee
requested.
on that one.
Now, I recognize they're of a different generation
Mm-hmm.
and they had a very different perspective. And I was okay with their perspective being
Mm-hmm.
different. However, I also knew that he knew that from a religious perspective,
They weren't gonna
they
agree.
were not going to agree. Now, being an only, of course, I will admit that oftentimes I was a people pleaser to fault with my parents in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So the ridicule, literal ridicule. Oh, what do you want to do? You gonna run around, act like you Scooby-Doo? What do you want to do? Oh, the ridicule. Mr. Wolf, you in Red Riding Hood. Things of that nature.
Oh my.
And it hurt deeply.
I bet.
And so when we got home, of course, I was just like, why would you do that? But that was the MO, right? So those are the types of things that would be done.
It sounded like when my mother said I was a pervert for talking about sex. I was just like, you got 4 kids. Who the pervert? I'm just, anyway, go ahead.
No, the point being mainly that oftentimes we don't know how to advocate for ourselves.
Yes.
And here I was in a position where I was advocating and asking, and we could have compromised. We could have done something different. It didn't have to be role play. You just let me know. I know that we're struggling though, because he had gone to an event, a men's ministry event, where they expressed that the only position authorized was missionary.
Don't do that. Listen,
And
the
so
bedroom of a marriage is undefiled.
that's their space to do with whatever they choose. In the book, there is such thing that I call HBNS, which is hot butt naked sex. So I was seeking it all the time, and he had challenges in that area. And of his own.
And you know, there's a
doing.
whole ego thing. When men can't come up to the standard of that hot but naked sex.
But that's what they say they want.
They say
And
they
so
want it,
here's
but
what I
most.
truly believe.
Mhm.
I really believe the reason that they talk about us not wanting it and we don't want to give it to them enough and this, that, and the other is because in all actuality,
They're projecting.
they're projecting. They're afraid of it. And the minute you get a woman who can really give you what you asking for every day, 2 or 3 times a day, 4 days a week, what you need, how you want it.
Flip, flop, fluff. We got you.
Slap it up, flip it, rub it down. What we doing? Come on now.
And see, this real grown folks, so you little babies that can't handle this conversation.
I'm just saying.
You church folks that can't handle this conversation. You probably do need to get with a therapist like one of us that will actually help to enhance that part of your life. There are some individuals who are sexually deprived in their marriages and are afraid to actually advocate for their needs because of the fear of judgment, that you're going to think I'm a freak. Well, what exactly is a freak, right? When God made us, he knew that our bodies had tendencies for sexual awareness and pleasure. That's why we have a pleasure principle. Understanding that, and you have to be willing to check your ego. So if you have a woman, and what I really want to do is educate the audience on understanding we're now in our 50s.
Yes, ma'am.
Our sexual
drive, exploration,
all
what word
of
you
that
want to
is
call
so
it.
high
It
right
is.
now.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we were in our 20s, we were raising babies and things of that nature, and men's sexual needs were much higher. But what the doctors are telling me now is even in the 30s, men are struggling. But women turn back on around 45.
Yes.
And so our needs are extremely high. And we're so cool with our bodies, whatever shape, form, and fashion they are. We want what we want. Right? And we're looking for men who are safe in their own bodies.
Safe is the right word. Secure, safe, satisfied.
Listen.
I'm just saying.
And when they're not, then they project on you that something's wrong with you.
Without recognizing that oftentimes that level of intimacy where I can actually have a great conversation, where I can be emotionally connected
and
vulnerable is not present. And when that's not present, it can be very difficult to even begin to feel connected. So that's why it's a practice, right?
It is.
Intimacy is a constant practice. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I agree with the idea that marriage is hard, that being in a relationship is hard, as much as it is that it just requires practice.
It requires practice and commitment.
Like anything else in life.
Like anything else. Consistency is the key to every area of breakthrough. For those that are using like reality TV shows and different things like that to try to justify marriage, stop.
There's no comparison. Marriage? Girl, of what reality TV is demonstrating?
Listen, when I tell you, when I have young married couples coming in and I ask the question, how did you learn how to be in a relationship? How did you identify what your intimate needs are, what your sexual needs are, financial needs, your vision, your mission, your goal? Reality TV. No, ma'am, no, sir. Stop doing that. Because the truth is, those are scripts.
Oh, for sure. And that's one of the other things I talk about in the book is the fact that in order for you to determine what you want your relationship to look like, what you want to see in the relationship, you have to really be connected with yourself.
With yourself.
If you don't know you cannot begin to demonstrate, to explore, to explain. If you don't even know your body, what things look like. I see people on a regular who are, 45, 55, 65, who've never had an orgasm.
Listen, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I counseled a couple a few years ago that were coming up on their 25th wedding anniversary. And they came in because she recognized that she wasn't being fulfilled, but she didn't know what fulfillment looked like. And when I asked about orgasm, she said, "What's that?" She said, "I just know I want to feel like him. He seems to enjoy it." Well, in his mind, "Oh, we're good." I was like, "No, you're good. Right. She's not."
Right.
Well, what we discovered was there was some childhood sexual trauma that was preventing her from actually enjoying, but also having a husband who didn't recognize that she wasn't enjoying.
Well, it's interesting because only 6% of women actually have an orgasm through intercourse, right? Otherwise, they're having orgasms in other ways.
Come on now.
So if you haven't taken the opportunity to figure out how you have an orgasm, then it's going to be difficult to tell someone else how to help you.
There are a lot of women that didn't even realize that they could have an orgasm. And I'll take it further. There are a lot of women that didn't realize that they can have an ejaculatory orgasm.
Yes. Absolutely.
When you talk to women about ejaculating, they're like, "No, that's for men."
Right.
No, our bodies are composed the same way.
Absolutely.
They're just a little break off before we come out the chute, right? Yes, you have that opportunity, but most people, one, are afraid to have those real conversations. Two, they confuse intercourse with intimacy.
Yes.
Can we talk about that for a moment?
Not the same thing at all. You could have an orgasm without taking your clothes off.
Listen, and one of the best.
Just saying.
I'm just saying.
You just have to. It's
mental.
It's like sapiosexual, right? Sapiosexuals are those who are intellectually stimulated.
And see, we're sapiosexuals.
So once you get my intellect, you get my intellect going, and feed me, because I love good food.
Right.
Then we are good to go. You will mess around and not
stress.
Shoot.
Listen,
you're intelligent, and we can
hold
eat
a conversation,
and we can go somewhere, and I don't have to worry about you doing something odd.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness. That's why you're my girl, man. That's why you're my girl. Because everybody can't have these conversations and they can't be real in the conversation when I say that it's so vital for you to understand the impact of relationship, that's your own relationship with you, and external relationships on your mental health. Give the folks something to think about when you talk about that mental health capacity and relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, recognizing that every encounter, every engagement, every experience you have with another person is a relationship.
Come on now.
So if you're not getting along well with your mama, your daddy, your play cousins, the people down the street, the people that work, the bus driver you can't stand, it's going to be really tough to get into a romantic relationship.
Well, can I add on to that? If you don't get along with you, if you can't look in that mirror and like you, if you can't say something healthy to you.
Do you know that there are many people, though, that don't have mirrors in their homes? So when we stop and think about just the reflection of who you are, without a mirror to show you from a mental health perspective, you're not even beginning. If you can't look at the physical side, how are you going to look deep enough within to hit the mental health, the emotional health?
That part.
And so when we think about all those experiences and all those encounters, they create a way of functioning. And they are a marked spot within the brain.
Come on now.
So I'm gonna get a little technical.
Go.
In the hippocampus, right? So that's where all those experiences are held. Then when you get to thinking about the emotions that you felt at the moment in which an experience came to be, that's held in your amygdala. They're very close to one another.
Very close.
So if you are having an emotional experience and suddenly you feel the rise and fall of your breath, your skin begins to sweat, then you're talking about your hypothalamus. It controls all that. This is all happening in your brain. And it hasn't even touched your physical behavioral side yet. So now you have an experience that has created an emotion, that has created a circulatory, regulatory part of your system, your nervous system, to begin to move and be stimulated. So what do you think happens if that experience is a bad one and you have something similar happen in a romantic relationship? Suddenly, you hit that experience that you have in your head, you hit that emotion that you have connected to it, your body begins to respond, and before you know it, if it's negative, you done cuss somebody out.
Cussed out,
and they did not know that they had done a thing. You are stonewalling, you got contempt and criticism coming through, and they're looking at you thinking, well, all I said was, I think you should wear the blue dress instead of the yellow one. But what you heard was, yellow makes you look fat.
Yep. Come on. We're going to have to finish this, literally, because that goes into a whole nother level. When you don't deal with your traumatic pain, and I know the catchword right now is triggers, expectations, boundaries, and things of that nature. But the truth is, if you have that rising up of you inside of you because someone mentioned a statement, mine was red lipstick. Like I was told, with me being my skin tone,
Really?
yeah, that if I wore red lipstick, that would be reminiscent of a whore. So literally, most of my life, I stayed away from red lipstick.
Oh, wow.
We get that actual imprint of all of these negative things. And listen, we are therapists extraordinaire. I'm just going to toot our own horn. If we still recognize that those little things are impacting us, then you have to be willing to allow yourself to assess and identify what's impacting you. A lot of times, there are situations that you don't know why you're responding.
Absolutely. So imagine that if, I'll take it from a personal perspective, I'm on this new journey as a single woman, enjoying my life. And if I get into a relationship, if something is said or done that looks like something I've experienced over the 23 years of that man. Now, I'm telling you my age. I'll be 52 this year.
And I'll be 55 this year, so we're making it do what it does.
Loving every minute of it. And so I have literally been married for 30 years of my life.
Yes.
Because the first time was 7.5 years. I got married almost instantly after because it's better to marry than to burn.
Come on.
That's a whole nother story.
We gonna do a follow-up. We will have to do a follow-up.
So then, of course, another 23. That's 30 years of a 50-year life. So imagine what the next person, if I don't work on my stuff, the next person is going to get a whole lot of...
Yes. And what I would tell the audience is, be very mindful and cautious of jumping from one relationship to the next. Give yourself permission to heal and to experience you through the pain, through the grief cycle of relationship. Okay? It's so vital that you really understand you. When you discuss intimacy and intimacy, seeing me through a lens of intimacy, it's important that you know you first. I'm going to encourage that everyone in the audience run out to Amazon and anywhere, any local bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, all that, and grab the book. Because it is going to change your mindset about relationship, intimacy with yourself, intimacy with others.
Yeah.
What are your closing words for the audience on this topic? Because we coming back.
I know. I think it would be that the only way to truly master Black intimacy for the relationship you've always wanted is, if you're already coupled, stop for a moment and set some new expectations.
Yes.
If you're seeking relationship, stop for a moment and think about what you truly want. Don't be vague in either of those settings. Be very specific. And then find the spaces that meet that.
Yes.
Don't just compromise. As a single person, don't just compromise. Find the spaces that meet that. And as a married person or a coupled person, be absolutely sure that you're taking the time to reset.
Whew. Those are so many powerful words of wisdom, that resetting, pressing that resetting button, giving yourself permission to press the reset button. Listen, I want you all to go out to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok. Subscribe and like to Dr. Jeannelle's pages. I'm telling you, the words of wisdom that TMI brings into the life of every couple and individual is going to change your life. I cannot actually wait for us to get into another broadcast.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much information that we need to come back with in a second one. It's vital that we continue to move and help change our communities. Everything that we do in this life is about being authentic and being your individual self, understanding that a coupling is only an extension of your individuality. Thank you for joining us on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. We're excited to have you here in season 2 as we normalize freedom. We'll see you soon.
Authentically peculiar. Authentically peculiar. Authentically peculiar.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia.